Hello and welcome back to IndieFilmopolis, a podcast dedicated to indie films. My name's Pugh. I'm an award-winning writer and director of a bunch of short films and features that I've no doubt you've probably never heard of. Today, I'm minus a mic, but I have the addition of a Paul, who's a writer and games designer in his own right, but within our filmmaking collective, he's my very own Ted Raimi. Paul Berrow. Hello, Paul. Thanks for coming in.
Hello there.
Thanks for filling in for Mike.
Not a problem.
So, in this episode, we'll once again be recounting stories from the making of our very own low-budget flick, Almost Enemy, including the time that I almost killed Paul here through suffocation.
Almost doesn't count.
Almost doesn't count?
No. You know...
Oh, I see. It almost doesn't count. Okay.
yeah, it's alright. I'll let you off because you only almost
okay,
killed me.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm certainly glad that you survived.
Yeah, I couldn't do this otherwise.
Just true. I might be in prison, so I wouldn't be able to do this either.
No, I don't use podcasts in prison.
Do they?
Yeah.
Great. I have to bear that in mind. We'll also be having a loving retrospective look at the immeasurably funny, much-loved British comedy Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and a film that I was going to refer to as a modern classic until I realised that it was almost 20 years old. So, in that case, the legitimate classic and the truly bonkers being John Malkovich.
How long does it take for a movie to go... How old's it got to be before you can call it a legitimate classic? Can you have the instant classic?
I'm sure you can have an instant classic, yeah. But that was 19 years ago, so it's...
Yeah, you can't exactly call it.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll also be doing some reviews and some recommendations of films, including the Ballad of Buster Scruggs and the not so indie film, but the amazingly entertaining Bohemian Rhapsody.
Or is it?
Okay. Spoilers. Yes, it's great. Before we kick things off, as ever, just want to give a quick but massive shout out to our amazing and very, very patient Indiegogo supporters. Thanks for sticking around. If you found the podcast by other means, big shout out to you too. Thanks for joining us and supporting the podcast. Just before we delve into the murky depths of the making of Almost Enemy, just want to say, in addition to Almost Enemy, we've got a short gory horror film that's currently doing the festival circuit at the moment called Conditioning, and I'm happy to announce that recently it won the Best Horror Thriller Award at the Lakeview Film Festival in India.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. And congratulations to everyone involved. It might come to a town near you. Check it out. We'll keep you updated on here about where it might or might not be screening. But that's also a film that I hope that we'll be able to talk about in great length in a future podcast. But for now, let's jump back into Almost Enemy. Paul, to prevent me from gabbing on anymore, drag you into the conversation, how would you describe Almost Enemy?
I describe Almost Enemy as like a really original...
Ooh, I like that.
It's just... I don't know how you came up with the idea for this movie. I remember reading the script, just humble brag, I read it before it was cool. I remember reading the script, and at the start you're kind of like... I was kind of like, okay, I kind of get... And then it just kind of veers off and goes to places that you don't expect. It's funny, it's charming, it's completely off the wall in places.
That's great. I think we'll have you back every week too.
Yeah, just cut that out.
Copy and paste it into each one. So, like you said, you did read it way in the beginning, and we talked before about the fact that I'm very much into giving people drafts of scripts and films before they're finished, because I think it's
it's the only way to fly.
Yeah,
really.
And you're one of those people who I can count on to give me honest feedback. Because a lot of time, you give stuff to people and they're
this is great, I love it. What was it about?
The worst thing is when people just blow smoke up your ass.
Yeah.
And they don't
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. What have I listened to lately? Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, and that's all about the record industry and managers being like, "Oh, I love you guys. Oh, by the way, which one's Pink?"
Yeah.
It's
So when you read it, you mentioned what you liked about it, but what were your initial thoughts? Were you like, don't?
Well, coming off of 1 minute,
yeah,
because you had a few more ideas, and I kind of discouraged them because they were also frameworks in which to do short. This is all my fault, basically, is what I'm saying, because I was like, you need to do something longer form, because I think you can do that, and you've got a good mind, and you've made how many movies? Even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I encouraged you to make something longer form, and then when you presented that to me, I was like, okay, wow, here we go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So if you want to kill anyone at the end of this process,
No, that's good. I mean,
not that you didn't try and kill me during this process, but
yeah, more on that later. Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about that. Do you remember the those ideas are coming screaming back to me now? Do you remember them?
I remember there was one about a couple of people getting stuck in an anthology movie that they were watching. I think.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I was reading. You were telling me about it.
It was a horror movie.
Yeah.
And I completely thought maybe we should. It was a decent idea.
It was a decent idea, but I felt at the time it was very similar to what you'd done before, and I basically pushed you into this. So
no, thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, I do remember. And then the other one, I remember people trying to discourage me from, which at the time I was like, why? It was, I don't know if you remember this, but I wanted to make a sci-fi film on a green screen and not put in any special effects.
Yeah, that's hell. Yeah, why would you do that?
And then what happened was, this is how long ago that was. Do you know the band OK Go?
Although, if that's a hit, then you can get fans to fan edit in your special effects.
That's a good idea. Oh no! Now you bring me back to.
See, now we're gonna edit that out so you can release it, and then.
But OK Go did that for one of their music videos. It was like all green screen. They just didn't bother to put in the effects. They just kind of were making fun of that process, and so it was kind of like, okay, yeah, it works as a
it works as a 2 or 3 minute thing. But if an entire film of that, I'd be like, no. I've seen the making of Star Wars Episode 1. I don't need to see the movie.
Well, also another thing that came out was a really great special feature on the Sin City Special Edition DVD. Is he released the version of the film without any of the special effects on it, which was cool.
Interesting and cool. Mm-hmm. But again, if it didn't have the completed movie to compare it to, you'd be like, so. It's like watching. Don't ever do this. I once saw a work print of the first Wolverine movie, Origins.
Oh, yeah.
And it was fascinating. And luckily that movie was garbage anyway. But I remember seeing it at the cinema and being like, it's kind of lost a lot of its impact, having seen Hugh Jackman flying around on wires beforehand and stuff like that. So
that's cool though.
It's cool, but it's not the way you want to experience a narrative, for example.
So you're taking full responsibility for him, West Enemy then, essentially?
No. I came up with no ideas for it. I'm basically saying you had some other ideas. The science fiction one, now that you've mentioned it, I remember being like, that'd be funny to see, but if you put serious amounts of time into it, there's no...
I don't regret not doing that.
And the anthology one, I was like, that's fine, but it's another anthology of things where you'd already made a massive anthology of things, which is great, by the way. 1 minute is great. Just in case you're wondering what... It's not that I hate anthology movies, it's just...
Okay, so you brought up 1 minute. So 1 minute we touched on before, but it was a series of 1 minute films in different genres. And had a bunch of recurring actors in it. And one of the people who I constantly threw in front of the camera was Paul.
We're basically old school friends, yeah?
Yeah.
Anytime you need a prat and you think, an actor won't do this, you get me to do it.
So what roles did you have in 1 minute?
I've played a corpse. I've played a mummy. I played a homeless person. I played...
A drunk homeless person?
A drunk, yeah. I played a drunk. Because I got to do the fall backwards, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I played a guy getting pied in the face. My life's ambition at the moment is to get a line in one of your movies.
Maybe one day.
No, that's a no. That pause is like, no, Paul.
We'll build up.
Yeah.
We've gone through all the variations of dead bodies and living dead.
Yeah, I've been every kind of... You wrapped me in toilet paper, that was one. That was for the mummy.
Was it
gauze?
Yeah, very cheap. It was like the sort of stuff you put around for painting.
Okay.
Like the cheap dust sheets, and we just cut it up.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, felt like toilet paper.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. And we covered you in double-sided tape.
Yeah.
I think gave you some old clothes, covered you in double-sided tape, and then wrapped you in this like dust sheet that we chopped into
In fairness to you, you didn't.
to your skin.
I still remember the first take on The Mummy. I think The Mummy was the first thing I did for 1 minute. I was walking up behind. If you see the short, I walk up behind someone, and they scream, and I was like, "It's a silent movie." But of course, they have to attract the attention of the other people behind. So she actually screamed.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, so I jumped, and I was like, "Well, that's that ruined."
No, it was great. I mean, that was the thing. That one took so long to set up. I'm trying to set the scene here. It was a 3-walled set in a theatre that we'd done, and along the wall, and this was for a pastiche of a black and white silent horror film, so it could look a bit dodgy. So we'd marked chalk along this set.
Hey, it works, man. It works really well. So.
For bricks. And so that took forever. And then we had this, the stuff that they used to decorate for Halloween for webs.
Yeah.
But it wasn't sort of like a practical thing for film because it was so tough that people couldn't get through it. And the actors in the scene were complaining that the webs that I put up were just too tough to walk through.
Oops.
And because it took so long to set up and the webs were so long to put up and it took them forever to get through them, we only did one take of each pass down the corridors, and so we'd spent literally hours putting the set together and getting you wrapped up and everything, and then we filmed the whole thing in literally about 10 minutes, and everyone was kind of like, oh, is that it? It was the quickest shoot we'd ever done and the least amount of takes, and it was an amazing film to edit.
See, you hire me, you get the least amount of takes you've ever had to do. Not that I did anything.
But I seem to remember everyone being a bit pissed off that they were waiting around forever. These proper actors, and they've got...
That's it though, isn't it?
They got 10
Acting
minutes
is apparently
of
waiting around to...
Yeah. And they get 10 minutes of action. But there you go. So, Almost Enemy is no different. We needed... I don't want to give too much away, but there's pictures anyway online of you wrapped up head to toe in videotape. Which we won't talk about the whys, but...
I remember I got thermal clothing, which was very effective.
So it was, we needed a complete kind of black, and the costume, we had a costume designer in the beginning, and she wanted to give you a morph suit. It wouldn't have been so hot. But the reason I said no was because I thought you'd be trapped in that morph suit once the tape was on. I thought, like, if you want to take the mask off or you want to go for a piss or something. So the alternative was to get these black thermals, which in theory was a good idea. So we had a balaclava, black thermal leggings and a top, long sleeve top, gloves and socks. And then the makeup artists, again, I think wrapped you in double-sided tape. Yeah. And then started wrapping these old videotapes around you.
Which, it's being wrapped up, having done it twice now, it's a weird experience because you feel like you want to help, but you can't. You've got to just kind of stand there with your arms out, and then you're like, I felt so lazy, and it's like, it was very strange.
But that took a while.
Yeah, it did. It really, I was just like, these old tapes. I really like that film.
That's right, yeah, because we were smashing the videos. So there was hundreds of videos on the set. It's part of the set decoration. So we were just taking those and smashing them and wrapping them around Paul. Yeah. And then he had like a few of the reels hanging off your arms and stuff. Looked really cool. Looked awesome. But yeah, the reality was he was wrapped in black thermals with a layer of videotapes on top of him. He was completely covered. Balaclava, gloves, top, bottoms, socks. And then, so that must have taken a couple of hours, I'd imagine. Yeah. Then got you under the lights to do your bits. Yeah. Which we won't explain, but so you did your thing, and then, because you're the sort of person that never complains about anything. So, like, if I ask you, are you all right? You just say yes anyway, whether you were dying or not. And so, like, we're doing take after take after take.
The weird thing is, I felt fine until it started to come off. And as soon as the cold air hit me, I realised how hot I was.
So once we got to the end and we pulled your mask off, I think, and then like we saw that you were literally red in the like beetroot red, and you were dripping with sweat, and like people were touching you, like, oh my god, how wet are you? Like you were just so, and so everybody was just like ripping the videotape off you and trying to get your clothes off you.
I'm like, if I remember correctly, you were like, you could take a shower, and I'm like, I can't because I've got a disability. I can't stand up unaided in the shower. And you're like, you can take a shower. And I thought, I'll take a look in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
You already filmed in there.
Yes.
And I was like, not only am I going to fall over, there are tea bags everywhere, I think, or something.
There was tea bags that there might have been at that time some very discoloured underwear.
Oh, yeah.
That put a lot of people off.
The glamours of movie making. But you were very worried about me.
I was extremely worried about you.
The thing that I remember was once you started taping me up, you said, I've got no idea what the chemicals on these things are going to do to you. If you feel faint, let me know. And I'm like...
It didn't occur to me until they started wrapping it around your face. I was like, oh, that's going to be right under his nose. He's going to be breathing that in.
No, it was an experience. It always is an experience working for you.
A good one?
No, it is good. But I think that was... It's so unusual. Mm-hmm. I mean, those pictures are on my Facebook, and it's all, what the hell are you doing there? Actually, I'm an independent film, actually. And then they're like, what are you wrapped up in? And it's just like, I could explain, but what? Like, but yeah, I didn't realise how warm I was until it started coming off. And as soon as the cold air hit me, and I was like, I'm sweating a lot.
Yeah.
And my thing was, you worried about me. I was worried about like people being like, that guy stinks. I was really worried people were going like, that guy really smells. Like I was unclean and stuff.
Yeah. I think everybody was worried about you. I remember like people rushing sugary biscuits into your mouth and getting you drinks and stuff. And
I just thought people were being nice. I didn't realise it was like a medical thing.
There's a picture of me and you sat with Laura, and she's showing you the footage back, and I'm kind of like, got a really fake smile on my face. God, thank God he's alive.
No, I was, like I said, I would have, if I'd have felt faint, I would have been like, I got to tell you, because otherwise, if something happens, then you're going to feel bad about it. I felt fine all the way through it until it started to come off, and the moment the cold air hit me, I'm like, actually, I'm really warm.
Yeah.
Like, really warm. Because I thought, thermal's fine. I feel a bit exposed, actually. Like, I didn't feel like padded out or anything. And then I didn't realise how effective it was until it came off. I really didn't.
So yeah, I was constantly texting you, make sure you got home.
Yeah, did you get home? No, I should be like, no, I passed out on the bus. And I didn't realise. Like, I knew you were worried, but I was just like, it'll be fine, Phil, it'll be fine. But yeah, I've got no idea what these chemicals will do to you. Could have wrapped your arm, like you're handing it for a day and saw what happens. I was worried like rashes everywhere. And like, oh well, I'll just stay at home for a bit, I guess.
Thankfully, you survived. You came out the other end,
and I'm a better person for it.
Are you?
I like to think so.
So
it lets me say that I've been an actor on several independent films, which is quite impressive on dates. Anything I've seen? No, they're far too niche.
Far too niche, yeah. Yeah, that's how I describe all of them.
No. Niche doesn't mean bad.
No, yeah.
It just makes me seem elitist, and it's probably why I never got many second dates.
So there's a film we did a few years ago, a short film. Like after we did 1 Minute, which was a collection of films, it was a good experience in a way, because the actors really liked having like a solid chunk that they could put on their show reel that was a minute. And it was self-contained rather than like a random scene that didn't kind of make any sense. So when we were, this is kind of like my over-ambition all the time, when we'd finished filming Almost Enemy and we were in started post-production, I thought what would be really cool is if we brought 1 Minute back as a web series.
I remember.
And I thought, you know what, we could probably do one a month.
I think you thought you could do one a month. I didn't remember that much.
Yeah.
I think that may have, you saying you were going to do 1 Minute as a web series, I was cool with. Mm-hmm. I think that may have been why I was like, no, don't keep doing short anthology things if you're going to continue 1 Minute as a web. I think that may have been where I...
Oh, no, because this was after we'd done 1 Minute. Oh, sorry, Almost Enemy.
Oh, is that...
So we'd filmed Almost Enemy, and I thought, to sort of, in the build-up, I could probably do a 1 Minute film every month.
How are you finding that?
Well, we've done 3 in the last 5 years, so yeah, it's going really well. But anyway, the first of which was called Speed of the Living Dead, which was a parody on zombie movies. It's done super well. It's done a whole bunch of film festivals last year, and the pinnacle of the success, if you like, was the fact that Hammer, the horror studio, the famous horror studio...
You have to explain who Hammer is.
I think people will know.
Yeah, exactly. You should like, Hammer. Done.
Hammer Studios. They picked it up for their YouTube channel, so you can view it via Hammer's YouTube channel. If you search
so cool.
Speed of the Living Dead, it should come up. But if it doesn't come up as the first result, just type in Hammer, it'll be there, and you can watch that 1 minute film. And anyway, the part of the reason I brought that up is because Paul was in that as a zombie.
Yeah, you made good use of my walking ability in that. Actually, it was the role I was born to play.
So, what have you got? Cerebral palsy?
Yeah.
So, your walk's brilliant for zombies and the living dead and everything. So, we're asking around our friends for people to come and be zombies and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we've got you and Joe to do the two main zombies. And I was expecting maybe one or two other people to be the zombie horde.
Well, you were expecting only one or two?
Yeah. And then we ended up with about a dozen people, which was awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I'm not a performer, I don't like being on camera, but I appreciate the fact that people love it. So when these people turn up and they loved doing it, it doesn't feel like an imposition to people.
I loved doing that because the makeup on that was awesome, and I was just like, brilliant, great, yeah.
And so we had two people doing the zombie making, which is kind of like a sort of a conveyor belt.
Yeah, it was a construction line.
Yeah.
Move to the left to get your eye done.
Yeah, pretty much that kind of thing. And it was brilliant, and just people were so into it and just loved getting messy and fucked up.
I remember it was around the time those no makeup selfies were on Facebook.
Yeah.
So the girl I was with at the time,
mm-hmm.
She thought I'd fell over and severely battered myself as soon as I uploaded it onto Facebook, and I was like, no, it's my no makeup selfie. What are you talking about? That didn't go down too well, but I thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's on my face. Like every time I'm filming for you, I'm always like, yeah, I look an idiot in this. I'll just put that in there.
But you were with a group of people.
Yeah.
You were isolated.
I wasn't the solo idiot. Yeah. Not that anybody there was idiots. I'm just.
But everyone was up for it. But anyway, you brought it. I don't know if you brought it up while we were recording or just before. But there was a bit that we cut. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, this is the role I was born to play, and at one point you needed someone to fall.
Yeah. So there's a zombie horde.
You asked if someone would fall, and I thought, well, I fall all the time. Well, not so much anymore, but I'm usually pretty good at falling. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was like, I felt really bad because I was like, I'll fall. And then just as you were about to yell, like, okay, action, I was like, actually, my phone's in my pocket. Get to my phone. Can somebody please turn my phone off me because I'm going to break it? So you had to come running over, and I could just imagine, like, bloody idiot, like. Right. So walking along, and I thought the fall that we did 2 takes where I fell, and the first one I thought went really well, like really well. It hurt like heck.
See, he didn't just fall; he proper face planted.
Oh yeah, you got to go for it.
It was like on a concrete street. We just fell flat on his face.
Well, that could have happened,
and it looked awesome.
It couldn't happen. It could have happened anyway. You know what I mean? I could have tripped over my own foot.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I'm going to go for it, I'm going to go for it. And I fell, and I thought, well, what? Zombie, okay. Drag yourself. So I dragged myself along. Ruined my boots, by the way. I had to send them back to the hospital to get those repaired. How do you do this?
You know.
Yeah. Which was fun. And then it was okay, can we do a second one? And I was like, okay. And the second one, I was too worried because my hands went out first, and it looked like I was trying to protect myself. And it really hurt my wrists, so I was like, I can't do a third. Okay. And I was like, okay, at least I got that fall probably looked pretty good, that first fall. Not in the film.
Sorry, Paul.
It's alright. It's okay.
I'll put it on. I need to.
Didn't you need stuntman wages or anything?
I should create you a show reel.
There's a few me messing up constantly, surely.
I'll put that fall on there. I can't remember why it didn't make it. It must have just been. I think because it was a 1 minute film.
Yeah, it's too
and
long.
when you condense everything, you just need kind of like moments, and it was just too long of a moment.
Don't get me like as much as I'm pulling your leg over it, like I understand these things, but yeah, if you create me a show reel, you get the Benny Hill theme.
I'll put it on. Yeah. We probably should have done a longer version of it, but it worked at a minute.
Yeah,
so.
it did. It's one of my favourite things that you've done.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
I wasn't sure whether it worked, to be honest, because I was like, does this work as a joke? Does it come across?
it's like the horror version of Droopy.
What the hell is that?
You know Droopy, the cartoon dog?
No, I know Snoopy.
No, Droopy, I think it's from Warner Brothers. And basically the whole thing with Droopy is like, hello, like he's like really dour, and will you be my friend? Like, he's constantly after just wants to be his friend.
Yeah.
And whoever is with him is just constantly trying to get away, and they do that whole gag where they run away, they get in a plane, they fly to another country, they open the door, and he's there like, hello. And that's the that's just like, this reminded me of that, but Droopy was going to eat you. I thought it was genius.
Before we go off and start talking about other things, in terms of where we're at with Almost Enemy, as ever, it's thereabouts. It's just literally a case of doing bits and pieces. So we've tentatively arranged a screening for the crew at the end of January for kind of feedback, for last minute changes and input before everything's kind of committed. So we're getting there slowly, and it's looking great, but it's done. It's
done straight.
It's so frustrating. It's there. Before we carry on, what are you up to? I'm constantly
writing, or at least coming up with ideas for writings, and then writing a few thousand words and be like, I've got another idea. At the moment, I'm trying to get written a series of radio plays that I want to release as a podcast, sort of a Twilight Zone style thing. Thinking about getting 6 of them done, releasing one a month, and in between them, making the next one the next month, and seeing how that goes. I've always been fascinated with her because I listen to a lot of, I listen to the Goon Show, I listen to like a lot of radio stuff when I was growing up. And I always find that stuff really fascinating. And the problem with like any film scripts that I try and write, it's always like, and they're on top of 50,000 foot skyscraper. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that, and then I can't do this.
Do the Los Angeles Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I'm really thinking that that these radio plays are. I'm so familiar with the format, and I've got so many. Not short ideas, but sort of smaller ideas that I really think can work.
Amazing. So when's the first episode going to be out? February next year?
Let's say April.
Let's put a date on it. April next year.
By April, I'm hoping I can have an episode out.
And so what do you need? You need actors?
I need basically people that are good with their voice. I mean, I'm probably going to try and be a voice in it because I love putting on silly voices, which you'd know if you gave me a line.
Well, maybe this will be your audition.
No,
after all this, I'll be like, oh damn, I should have put Paul in Almost Enemy.
Hey, I was in Almost Enemy. How dare you?
No, as the main character.
I nearly died for Almost Enemy. No, as the main character. Don't say that. Your usual co-host is going to be spitting. To be brutally honest, I'll probably be contacting you and being like, so, do you know anyone who would...
Of course, well, you've always got my help, but for people out there who are actors or have other means to help you, how can they get in touch with you?
At the moment, it's just be through email.
Which is?
pmberrow5@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome.
I cursed the previous 4 PM Barrows who got there before me.
You on Twitter?
At PM Berrow.
What's the best way to get in contact?
The best way would be actually Twitter would be pretty good, considering I don't post on Twitter that much. But if somebody messages me on Twitter, it'd be one of the first things that I
so there's no point following you.
It took me forever to realise I've been hacked. Okay. It took me like 2 years to realise somebody was putting very risque photos of themselves up on my account.
Nice. Okay, I didn't know.
And I was like, sorry, I've been hacked. Like, it's like, oh, you're trying. It was one of the, you know, the kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you want to date with me, blah blah blah. And I was just like, how long has this been going on? I was scrolling back like, oh my god, why have none of my friends told me?
Well, there you go. So if you want a date with Paul or want to get
Too late, I'm taken.
If you want to get in touch about collaborating in one way or another on his upcoming
I haven't even
podcast,
I haven't even come up with a name for the,
yes,
for the
you
whole
have. The Berrow saga.
Berrow. Don't get...
The Untitled Paul Berrow Project is what it's called at the minute.
Yeah, that'll do.
So we talk a lot about indie films, and when Paul agreed to be on the podcast, I asked him for some suggestions of films
Yeah, you did.
that we could talk about, both of which I was super pleased he suggested. The first of which is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Written by all six Pythons and directed by the two terriers, Gilliam and Jones, the film was made for just £200,000, taking investment from musicians and bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, who were looking for a way to write off a bit of tax. Released in 1975, the film today is still held in high regard, and it's obvious to see why. The film has a whopping 97% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 95% audience score. So Paul, why did you want to revisit this film?
Because it's the funniest film ever made.
Yeah. Okay.
It's that
That's
simple.
fair enough. That's fair enough.
There is a story about John Cleese losing his temper with some of the production people because they couldn't get some of the fog to look right, and they'd spent like an hour trying to get this fog.
Yeah.
And he just turned around and went, "Is the fog funny?"
But this wasn't the production guys. It was at Jones and Gilliam.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I see. I've misheard that.
No.
The story then. Is the fog funny?
Yeah. He was saying that they were just faffing around all the time
Yeah.
trying to get the fog right. But I think to be honest, while I agree with him somewhat, I think it is the details like the fog and the grime and the muck and everything that set it apart and
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. It helps.
edge.
It helps, but that script just dances. I mean, my favourite joke on it is ridiculous because of how the first time I saw it, my grandmother's reaction when I was watching it. The Bridge of Death.
Yeah.
And halfway along the Bridge of Death, there's an intermission.
Yeah.
And I burst out laughing for a solid 4 minutes. I had to stop the film. And then I was like, what's so funny? There used to be intermissions all the time. And I'm like, and she couldn't understand why I found like, not at the most tense and dramatic moment of the movie do you suddenly pop up intermission.
Particularly 10 minutes towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. You don't do that. And she was like, oh, and I'm like, she couldn't understand. I nearly wet myself. Yeah. That's my favourite tiny joke in it. But you can take any scene from that, and it's an instantly quotable film. Considering how little it was made for, the talent involved, even the ending, which to me is its weakest point, where they blatantly must have just gone, I got no idea how to end this.
Yeah.
Let's have the police turn up.
But they do at least sort of weave that in.
But it fits with the rest of what's going on.
So the thing that sort of always feels curious to me is how did these six guys make a series of great films, British films, with British humour, that translated across the world, but no one else has seemed to been able to do that since. It just hasn't carried.
No, well,
I haven't seen it, but or like think of things like the Keith Lemon movie or Mrs. Brown the movie or whatever.
But that's not comedy.
So, but why? Okay, so why is there a problem with the quality of comedy in general, regardless of whether
Because
it's
the
on
comedy
film or
we
TV?
have now is safe.
Yeah.
It's designed to be disposable. It's designed to not make you think, here's a catchphrase or two,
Yeah.
and let's slap that on a t-shirt. But nobody wants to go and take risks, and the people that do want to take risks, risky comedians like today, they're like Frankie Boyle.
Yeah.
They're offensive. They're like do the Roy Chubby Brown version of comedy where it's like, I'm going to swear, I'm going to get a laugh, and shock comedy works.
Yeah.
It does. It is funny, but it does lose its.
But why isn't it translating into films? Because those guys, if you think about all they've achieved, the six guys, individually, I mean, Gilliam's gone on and had not necessarily a great successful career in terms of box office results.
But he's made what he wants to make.
He has, and Terry Jones the same. Michael Palin's had a great career as an actor, same as John Cleese. they've all gone on and done great things. I'm wondering if it's the environment in which they were allowed to make the TV show in the first place.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's the BBC back in the day.
Yeah.
There's a great thing about, I read about Only Fools and Horses,
Mm-hmm.
one of the nation's best little comedies. The first series was a bomb.
Yeah.
Nobody watched it. It was only because the BBC usually let you have 2 series.
Mm-hmm.
They let you have your first series and your second series. And after that, then they decide. Nowadays, if something isn't a success in 3 weeks, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
These days, you can't develop. You are either a smash
Mm-hmm.
or you are gone.
I do think that the way that the BBC set up is a massive part of it as well. Because if you're talking about catchphrases, I'm thinking about Little Britain.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
Which was great when it first started, and it did become a catchphrase show. But the reason that happened was not necessarily because that's what they tried to drive. It was because they'd write a sketch, and the producers would say, "Okay, well, we need to find this location and these costumes. Can you write 3 more sketches with these characters for this location?" And they'd be like, "Okay."
Fine. Yeah.
Then you're boxing and you're having to think of stuff, and so they just ended up reusing the same joke over and over again, rather than having to go with like the Pythons. Like, I'm not aware that there's recurring characters. I mean, there might be, but there certainly wasn't. Each show you tune in and you have
this
that
sketch,
character
this
sketch,
yeah.
and so on and so on and so on. So I think they probably were allowed to be more creative and out of the box, and not kind of. It wasn't drummed into them that this was how you make comedy.
Yeah.
It has to be this thing over and over again because of budgets.
I mean, budgets for comedies used to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
The Two Ronnies must have had a massive budget for half the stuff they did. Morecambe and Wise,
Yeah.
massive budgets for their Christmas specials. And nowadays it's not. It's just a thing you put on.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's the problem with thousands of channels and disposable content.
Yeah.
Then the closest thing that I could think at the moment of people coming from comedy TV in Britain was Peg and Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Doing Shaun of the Dead and very British films, Hot Fuzz and that kind of thing. But again, they came from Channel 4, which was at that time in the early noughties and late 90s. That was more of I guess the BBC, what was like in the 70s, it was more of a breeding ground for comedy.
Let's try it. Let's
and
go
being
for
experimental,
this. Yeah.
and like you said, absurdist, which Space certainly was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I certainly think one of the enduring qualities of all of the Python's films is the realistic locations and stuff. Even though, like you said, Cleese got angry about the smoke and stuff, but I do think that's an important element that's made them enduring films as films.
Oh yeah, like don't get me wrong, like it does look real. I mean, they're in knitted armour. It's knitted armour, right? But it works because they are in a field somewhere covered in muck.
Yeah.
It works and that makes it funnier.
Mm-hmm. And it was horrible for them. They hated filming it because they were filmed in Scotland. Like you said, it was knitted armour.
It must be freezing.
It rained all the time, like it does in Britain,
Heavy.
particularly in Scotland. So they were soaked in costumes that just wouldn't dry. But out of misery comes
Genius.
Yeah. So you talked about your favourite scene being on the bridge. Any other
no,
moments?
it's not my favourite. It's my favourite singular joke.
Okay. Any moments that stick out then, other than that?
Moments to stick
I know
out.
it's an impossible question, but
Yeah, moments to stick out of that is again, it's the bridge of death where it's like, what's your favourite colour? Red. No, blue. Like
yeah.
Indecisiveness causes death. The Black Knight is the first. That was the advert on the Comedy Central channel back when they used. That was in the ad. That's where I first saw any Python.
Okay.
Was the guy getting his arms chopped off and be like, "It's a scratch. I'll have you."
Tis but a scratch.
I'll have to watch this.
Yeah.
It's just ludicrous. I mean, the coconuts.
I'm glad you brought that up. To me, that's the quintessential low budget filmmaking story.
Out of nothing.
Yeah. You can't afford horses. What can you do? Okay, well let's write a whole series of jokes around the aide having coconuts, pretending to be a horse. Brilliant, genius.
Yeah. Because they could have just been letting have horses, then they'll walk around.
Yeah, but
and it wouldn't have affected the quote unquote plot.
No.
The plot of that movie is what?
Yeah.
We walk around, some silly stuff happens. Yeah, like you can't ask me my favourites because it's just I want to quote the entire film.
Well, let's go for it. When I rewatched it, what surprised me was how much I laughed at scenes that I'd forgotten and scenes that I know that I'd pissed myself laughing at before when I was anticipating them. I was like, okay, that was quite funny, but it wasn't killing me. And then other scenes that I'd completely forgotten about or didn't remember to be particularly funny were the ones that killed me. And I think it's probably one of those films that where you get a different experience each time. And this time around, the one that killed me, which I didn't remember being particularly funny last time, was John Cleese's Lancelot running to rescue Terry Jones.
It goes on for
going on and on, and then he's constantly stabbing one of the guards, and he runs in, and then the other guard just leaning against the doorway, and he turns around, hey. And that it's not even a line. It's just one word, not even said by one of the Pythons, but that just killed me. Life of Brian always tends to come above Holy Grail.
I see.
To me,
I love Life of Brian for its bravery, the brave film to do, because it says a lot about religion, and that's really smart. And then you've got silly things like the alien, where on earth that come from, or Biggest Dickus, and it definitely has a bigger breadth of comedy to me. It is a smart, but Holy Grail to me is just more quotable.
Yeah, I just in general I think it's possibly just it's hard to weigh it up, but I'd say
I can certainly agree with you either way.
If I was going to sit down and watch one of them, it would be Holy Grail.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's it. I mean, I love Life of Brian. I even like Meaning of Life.
Yeah, same actually. I know that's not as regarded as quite as well as the other two.
The one that isn't regarded is now something completely different, which is a series of their sketches.
Yeah, the first film they did was a remake of their sketches, and they're terrible remakes. You might as well just watch the original version of the sketches.
But like, you can still watch that and think it's funny.
It frustrates me because I just think, why bother? When the original versions of those sketches are so funny, so much more funny than what happens in that movie. It's really frustrating. But yeah, The Meaning of Life, I rate that as well. I really like that.
Yeah, some great songs in that.
So anyway, final thoughts.
It's the funniest film I've made. It's just these.
A perfect choice, I'd say. It's good to get a little British film in there now and again as well. So anyway, moving on. The other film that you suggested, another one I was glad that you did, being John Malkovich. 1999, one of the most notable and innovative music video directors of the 90s, and an unknown sitcom writer joined forces to deliver both their respective movie debuts as writer and director. Made for a modest $13 million, the highly original and truly bonkers Being John Malkovich launched them both to instant notoriety and earned both director Spike Jonze and writer Charlie Kaufman Oscar nominations. Almost 20 years later, and despite a cavalcade of imitators and living in the peak of meta, I'd argue that the film was as funny and fresh as it was back in 1999. But Paul, why did you want to revisit it?
I wanted to revisit it because I remember thinking this is an American doing something zany and working and bonkers and working and being really impressed with it. And like you said, 1999, it's a big year for movies.
Yeah. We're going to mention that one. One of the greatest one of the most expensive independent films ever made. Anyway,
no. And I can't remember when I saw it, but I only saw it once. I saw it once. Was pretty blown away by it because I didn't think American humour would do that. So I really wanted to. I was like, I'll recommend that and give me an excuse to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
And I found it really hard going. Really hard going. Because the conceit of the movie is that the main character finds a hole.
Yeah.
And when you get down that hole, you end up inside the head of John Malkovich. And that's genius.
Yeah.
But the whole movie is way weirder than I remembered. It's way stranger. Like, his girlfriend is looking after animals.
Yeah.
And like, there's no sense of normalcy. Even your main character is a puppeteer.
Yeah, which works as a motif, but you're right, the problem is his girlfriend's got a pet monkey and he works on the 7.5th floor. Yeah,
and to me, in order for it, I don't want to, because it is a good film. I just found it hard going because there was no sense of normalcy first for this strange event to seem strange. Because why wouldn't there be a hole where you walk down and then entered the mind of an actor? because everything else in this movie is really weird.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I think it could have benefited with, like you say, having some normalcy, but I still love it.
It's a very strange film. It's stranger than I remember. I remembered the overall conceit of the film, the idea of holding to, and then watching it, I was just like, everything is weird.
For sure. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that's there for the sake of it, and you could just strip it out. But to me, that didn't detract too much. From my recollection of it, was that it was a clever film, but was quite slow and boring. But rewatching it, I loved every minute of it. And there are issues. I agree that those are issues, but it didn't detract for me. I
wanted to get to the Malkovich bit because it was like, that's genius.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being like, everyone has a weird quirk.
Yeah.
Everyone. And that sat wrong with me because it took the fantastical element almost out of it for me. Because
the thing that detracts for me is the fact that there's no likeable characters in it.
No.
And the fact that Maxine, played by Catherine Keener, who's awesome in everything, I don't think that she deserves a happy ending, but she gets one. Favourite scenes?
I think...
Malkovich?
Yeah. Scene where he gets punched near the start, the little girl comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it wasn't that I hated it,
Mm-hmm.
it was just really difficult for me to sit down and be like, okay, I don't know why.
Well, I think you've explained why.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You get that feeling where it's like,
mm-hmm.
why isn't this clicking with me like it did when I was...
See, that was my experience the time before I watched it. And that was what I was expecting when I was going to watch it this time. But I didn't have that experience.
Very strange that we've basically switched roles.
Yeah.
You haven't found a hole into my head or something, have you?
God, dread.
You don't want to get there.
Dread to think. My favourite scene was when, towards the end, when Cameron Diaz was chasing Catherine Keener through John Malkovich's subconscious, and they was going through all different kind of memories that he had, and just the way that they filmed that, I thought was genius. They sort of reused that for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which same writer obviously, it's got a lot of similarities, not just in the script, but also
again, I haven't
the
seen
way
that in years.
Yeah, a lot of same themes. One of my favourite moments was when Malkovich comes out of his own subconscious onto was it the New Jersey Turnpike where they drop, and he's had an argument with John Cusack and he's storming away, and then a car drives by, and there's no way that the passengers in the car could possibly know that was John Malkovich. Even so, they drive by and the one guy leans out and yells, "Malkovich, you suck," and lobs a can at his head.
Yeah, that's... I don't know if you know this, but that was a member of the crew. The guy that loves the can. I think it was a cameraman because they'd had members of the crew driving past for ages and none of them could hit him.
Okay.
And the cameraman was like, I can do it. And I'm like, okay, then first go, he just drives past, smacks the can off his head. Oh, I heard that, but
I think it sounds familiar. Yeah, it's funny. And his reaction was great as well.
Him standing there being like, missed. Because you know, sooner or later, this is going to hurt.
Yeah. No, he's a good sport about it as well, I think. Yeah. John Malkovich, yeah.
Can you imagine it being I don't know, John Travolta or something?
Yeah.
Sure. No, you can't, because...
I remember reading somewhere that when they were pitching it around, one of the studio executives read the script and said to them, look, why isn't this being Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, see you later.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't
that
work.
would be horrifying in its own right, wouldn't it?
It would. It truly would. Yeah. But even the end bit that I really like, where they're Cameron Diaz and Catherine Keener are going through his subconscious, through his memories, and they've got like a young version of Malkovich who's pissed himself on the bus, and all the kids are making fun of him. You've got to give credit to Malkovich for just being like, all right, okay, whatever. You do what do you want to do? Because as far as I'm aware, he didn't ask them to change anything.
He didn't think he was a big enough name.
No, but just in terms of them making fun of him, I'm not aware that he asked them to change anything. No. So when I was doing research for Being John Malkovich, I came across this weird fan theory that connects Being John Malkovich to Get Out. Have you seen Get Out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's this theory that Get Out is actually a secret standalone sequel to Being John Malkovich.
What?
Mm-hmm. So the theory is, because Catherine Keener's in both of them, the theory is that Maxine from Being John Malkovich is the same character as Missy in Get Out.
All right.
Both played by Catherine Keener. So Being John Malkovich ends with Maxine and Lottie's, Cameron Diaz and Catherine Keener's daughter, who was fathered by John Malkovich.
Yeah.
In the child's subconscious, John Cusack's character is trapped because he tried to go back into Malkovich, but the gateway closed at midnight. He didn't get there in time, and so he went into the next vessel. Did they call them vessels? He goes into the next vessel, who was the daughter who Catherine Keener was pregnant with at the time.
Yeah.
So he's trapped in this girl's subconscious. Once the gateway, would you call it, the door, the portal into Malkovich had closed, they sought different mind transplant experimentation, and they came across Roman Armitage, her husband in Get Out, who's a neurosurgeon. The theory goes on that Lottie, Cameron Diaz's character, entered the body of Roman's son Dean Armitage, and then Maxine and Lottie's daughter Emily, fathered by John Malkovich, combined with the spirit of John Cusack's Craig. Yeah. Okay, following.
Yeah.
Living in his own quote-unquote sunken place, which is all part of Get Out.
Yeah.
Rose up to become Rose Armitage in Get Out. Same character.
Yeah.
Okay? Following?
Yeah.
Okay. And all these people, Dean Armitage, Rose Armitage, who is, in fact, Emily from Being John Malkovich, Missy, who is Maxine from Being John Malkovich, and then Roman's son, Dean, is Lottie from Being John Malkovich, Cameron Diaz's character.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the theory. And when that was proposed to Jordan Peele, the director of Get Out, he said it was never conceived as a sequel, but he really liked the idea, and he talked it over with Spike Jonze, and they both really dug the connection.
That's so cool.
And so they said that, between themselves, they're happy to say that those films exist within the same continuity.
Excellent.
Which adds another dimension.
I love it when people accept fan theories.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's like, yeah, cool.
And then further to that, Jordan Peele, Get Out's director, said he would be interested in casting John Malkovich in a Get Out sequel just to bring it all full circle. So good Lord, we will see. We'll see. I mean, some of those things are a bit of a stretch.
I don't know. A sequel to Get Out would be a bit with the buzz that got. You can imagine it. So
I think Catherine Keener's character that makes sense. You could make that work.
Yeah.
I think all the other characters that they're trying to force into. This character became this character, and this character became this character. And that might be stretching a bit too much. But I like the idea that those two exist in the same universe. That's kind of cool. Anyway, final thoughts on Malkovich, Being John Malkovich.
Like, it's a good film. I can see it's a good. I just think it was at that time I watched it, I was not in the right frame of mind to accept.
I think that's a good. I think it is one of those films where you have to be in a certain frame of mind to enjoy it.
Because it is good. I can see it's good. It's just it was difficult for me, which certainly wasn't the case the first time I watched it. I'll certainly give it another go because it's so unique.
Yeah, it's different. So going from some retrospectives of some classic films to some reviews of some more current films. There's a film that was recommended to us by a writer-director and actor Alexander Cooper called Sandow. Sandow follows the career highs and lows of forgotten strongman Sandow the Magnificent and his protege. Like I said, it was written and directed by and starring Alexander Cooper on a tiny budget of £25,000, which for a period film is nothing. But they've really made every penny count in this film. The locations that they've chosen, I don't know how they managed to snag them on such a low budget. The locations are great, the costumes are great. When you watch low budget period short films, often they're very cheap looking costumes from hire shops, like theatre production clothes and that kind of thing, which look fine on the stage but on camera don't look so good. In this film the costumes look brilliant, as do a lot of the locations, and they've come up with some fairly innovative ways of getting around some location issues as well. It's plagued by a couple of technical issues, unfortunately. They possibly could have done with a bit of redubbing and a better sound mix and maybe a tighter edit, but there's only so far you can stretch a budget.
Exactly. I mean, especially when you've got, it's written, directed and starring. That's a lot of work as well.
It is, yeah.
That is a lot of work. I mean, What's your favourite scene from?
There's a 6-minute uncut take, which is impressive in itself, around a dinner scene. Which, yeah, in West Enemy, there's it's a 5.5-minute scene. I think I only got 2 clean takes of it. It was so tough to get that out, and it's not like a walk in the park scene either. It's a very confrontational scene.
So everything's got to work.
Yeah. And it does, and the actors in the scene are brilliant. There's loads of stuff that's very impressive about it. Just the way that they've stretched the budget.
Basically, the filmmaker in you is a bit jealous of.
I'm impressed.
Let's use the word impressed, Phil. There's no jealousy involved.
No, I'm impressed. Like, to pull off a normal kind of a contemporary set film on 25,000 is tough. To pull off a period film on that budget, congrats to you, because I don't know how you've done it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yes, if you'd like.
So how can you watch this?
Well, you're on Amazon Prime. If you'd like to check it out,
I am on Amazon Prime. I will be checking it out.
It's on Amazon Prime. Just search Sandow. If you're not on Amazon Prime, if you head over to sandowthemovie.com, you can rent it and buy it, I think. If you want to get in touch with the director, follow what he's up to. He's on Twitter as @AlexanderCooper81, and I believe I saw that they won an award at an Italian sporting film festival.
That's cool. I'll definitely be checking it out.
Nice one. Yeah, well, you might enjoy it because you're into wrestling and stuff. It is sort of the history of kind of the whole strongman.
Well, strongman and protege, I'm thinking like La Strada, like Fellini, which again I've only seen a couple of times. But what kind of rating would you give it?
For the film, I'd give it a 3, but I think for its ambition and innovative approach to some of the scenes, I'd probably give it a 4, to be honest.
Sweet.
When you consider the budget and what they've done.
It's such an interesting subject matter as well.
Yeah, it's not a sort of the typical thing where, he's trying to kind of piggyback on the back of
something really popular,
yeah.
like it's following an MMA fighter because that was popular a couple of years back. No, it's like circus strongmen and like sideshow things. They're not really about anymore.
No.
It all evolved into like wrestling and then pro wrestling, and that kind of stage show it's kind of become.
Absolutely, yeah. It's worth checking out. So please do. Sandow. Right, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. The latest film from the stupidly good Coen brothers, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, is an anthology of 6 Western tales connected by nothing more than the broad Western genre and a colour plate in a book that sets up each instalment. Funded and released by Netflix, this is Coen's first digital movie and the first to premiere online, with just a token theatrical run to ensure that it's eligible for Oscars. But is it any good? What did you think?
Well, there's a rumour gone round that it's supposed to have been a TV series.
That isn't true.
That I was just going to say, that isn't true. But I can certainly see where the rumours come from.
Yeah. Well, where the rumour came from was that people, when they announced it, they didn't specifically say it was a film. They said it was a collection of Western stories, and people jumped to the assumption.
It's Netflix,
and the Coen brothers, being the Coen brothers, thought that's funny. Yeah. We won't bother to tell anybody until it was released at a film festival earlier this year. So everyone was anticipating a TV series. They ended up with a film. I'm not sure whether that's good or bad, but it does kind of feel like it would have been better as a series of shorts rather than vignettes, a collection. Yeah,
because it doesn't feel even. Like some of them feel shorts, and then there's a couple of them that could have been fleshed out.
For sure. When it first started, I loved every second of The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs being the first instalment, not just the film. Yeah. The first instalment is called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Yeah. I could have watched a whole film about that guy. So funny.
Yeah.
But then it lost its way.
Weird. To me, that was the most Coen brothers of all the like the rest of them. Well, obviously it felt like a Coen brothers movie.
Yeah.
And some of the rest of them, I mean, some of them I got things out of. I think the one that I got the most out of was Meal Ticket.
That was my least favourite. One of my least favourite ones.
I just think it's an indictment on entertainment.
For sure. Oh no, totally.
And I'm going to like it because, you know, they were doing speeches from
Yeah.
Shelley and...
One of my problems with the film is that it's almost like they couldn't figure out how to end each one, so they just killed somebody. Each one ends with somebody dying.
By about the end of the... By the end of the second one, near...
Algodons? Are we going to go with that?
Yeah, let's go with that. As soon as I realised that somebody was going to die, I was like, and so I was just waiting for people to die.
Yeah. And apart from the very last one, I'm pretty sure that's how each one ends. Well, that's how they resolve each
They're already
thing.
dead in the last one. That's the road to hell. Or the afterlife.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway. That's what I'm going to pull out of my...
But yeah, to me it felt like it started off really strong and just kind of ran out of steam and almost ran out of budget, because that last one is set almost entirely in a stagecoach with no exteriors.
That's
pretty much.
That's why I think it's the road to hell.
And it feels like a cheap film. Like, I could have done that.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done the first instalment.
Trying to sound too bad. I could have done.
No, but
yeah,
you know, there was nothing particularly outstanding in terms of the way that one was filmed or necessarily written.
No, where was the plot?
Yeah,
where was the plot to near
Algodon?
That's a joke. That's a joke.
It's a sketch. Yeah. Like I said, I would have watched the whole movie of the first segment with Tim Blake Nelson's character.
I think the girl who got rattled could have been a decent little tragic romance. Yeah. That could have been a 3-act movie of him meeting someone.
That felt really long. That's probably
the longest one. But I think it could have been a movie, like a proper.
Yeah.
Instead, I was just like, one of them's going to die in a terrible way, because so far everyone's died in a terrible way. Because I thought that was probably the best acted one as well, to me. But again, there was more to bite into, so... Like, I don't think any of them were bad. I don't think they were bad. It looked gorgeous.
It looked amazing, yeah. It's almost like they had 6 ideas for films and wrote the first act and then couldn't be bothered to finish them off. So they was like, right, okay, so we'll shoot them, then we'll pull them all together, and that's an anthology film.
Yeah, I liked all of them. I didn't love any of it.
I loved the first one, and it literally progressively got worse. When it got to the last one, I was just losing the will to live almost. I'll certainly rewatch it, and I have had the experience before where the first viewing of a Coen Brothers film isn't necessarily the greatest. So going into it a second time, I might get a lot more out of it. But what we normally do is we rate films. Instead of stars, we go with Kahuna burgers.
Kahuna burgers?
Yeah.
That's a really fine burger.
Enjoyed more when you wash it down with a refreshing beverage.
Yes.
But so, if I was being kind, I'd give it 2.5.
Out of?
5.
Okay, this is the thing I was going to ask you.
Yeah, 5.
How could you only have half a Kahuna burger?
Oh, well, if Samuel L. Jackson's eating the other half.
Oh, there you go then.
I'd imagine once I rewatch it, I'll have a different opinion on it, but first impressions, disappointed.
I think I liked it more than you. I'd give it a 3.
Okay.
I think I liked it more than you. But my expectations were nowhere, or nothing, because it's like, well, it's on Netflix, and Netflix are going through this thing where, they've got a name, they can't seem to get this thing made, let's hire them and then make a big stink about it. I mean, is it Mowgli?
Oh, they bought that?
They bought that because is it Warner Brothers don't want to put it out so close to the Disney one. They bought that. It's out in a couple of weeks.
Okay, I didn't realise that. But yeah, someone else described Netflix to me as a dumping ground.
I think it's unkind to call Netflix a dumping ground. I think they're still in that phase where they're like, because they're transitioning from having other people's things on there to having their own stuff. They've got to keep trying to find the next thing.
Yeah,
they've got to create good relationships with like the Coen Brothers and Andy Serkis and whoever else, so that if they've got a project, it's not like, well, we can't get it made here.
Yeah,
let's go to Netflix. It's more like, Netflix are good to us. Let's go there. And it's not like this isn't terrible. I mean, you may think so, but I didn't think.
I don't think it's terrible. My opinion is I'm disappointed with it.
I'll see you in 20 years and we'll see what you think.
Yeah, I don't think it's their best work. Far from it. I probably should have rewatched it before we talked about it, but first impressions, yeah, a bit disappointed. But like I said, that's not uncommon for me watching a Coen Brothers film. I can think of countless films of theirs where I was kind of, what the hell? And then when you watch it knowing what to expect, it's a completely different experience, and you appreciate for what it is, not what you expected it to be. So another film that was recommended to us was Squirrel, which is about a couple who get lost in the woods, and they're aided by a couple of strange people who are part of a sort of a cult of sorts, who used to harvest a crimson maple syrup that has healing properties.
Okay.
And as things tend to happen with cults, particularly people you find in the woods, strangeness ensues.
Yeah.
So that's the basis of this film.
Certainly the last time I met a cult in the woods. But that's for another time.
This is directed by Matt Glass and Jordan Wayne Long, and I have to say, I thought it was awesome. Really liked it. I'm not sure what the budget was, but it's another film where they'd pretty much put every penny on the screen. It's very well crafted, fairly original. There's a few shades of story items stolen from the Rocky Horror Show, but on the whole...
Hey, if you're going to steal for something, do like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, man.
It's funny, it's sinister, it's creepy, it's quirky, but it's not too quirky.
Sounds like the Addams Family.
The score is great, and it's really well acted. But the thing that stood out for me the most was the cinematography and the editing. To me, those are kind of telltale signs of a low-budget film, but it was just brilliantly shot. It's graded really, really nicely, and the editing's brilliant. And the one sequence that stuck out the most was the opening sequence, which is kind of a flashback, and it's got one of the best uses of a drone shot that I've seen in a low-budget film.
I imagine drone shots are bloody everywhere with the price dropping.
They are pissing me off so much. Every single bloody low-budget feature or short has got at least a dozen drone shots wedged in.
It's like a sweeping and panoramic shot, but
it doesn't aid the story at all. It doesn't do anything. It's just like...
Because they could.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd be so guilty of that, though. It'd be like...
I understand it, but it's got to the point where it doesn't make your film look like it's got higher production values. It just looks like, oh, your mate's got a drone.
Yeah.
However...
And that isn't the case here.
That is not the case here. No, the opening sequence is, particularly the use of the drone and the editing, is just amazing. And then when I went to look at who the different people were involved, it turned out that the editing, the cinematography, the music, all the things that I really liked, the directing and the writing was all done by this one guy called Matt Glass. Normally, that's not uncommon for people to do everything on a low-budget film or no-budget film. You can normally tell things aren't strong.
Someone's been stretched.
But this fucking guy, he's great at everything. And I'm not, You're
not usually a jealous person, but I can see the vein in your throat. Just
like okay, do one thing really well, but he does everything really well.
Do you know how long this took to make?
I have no idea. I've tried to. I'm
trying to give you like a beacon of hope.
Oh, let's say it took him 20 years.
Yeah, there you go.
No, these guys did.
You had to invent drones for that shot.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was so long ago you hired a helicopter to do it. No, these guys do great. And the other thing that stuck out to me was the end credit sequence, which could well be a standalone short film in its own right. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's available on Prime in America. It's as yet not available in the UK or Europe. They were very kindly sent me a screener of it, so that was cool of them. I would, hope that they do release it in Europe, because it probably would.
I do, because you really sold me on it.
It would fly better. Well, I don't know. It would definitely go down well in Europe anyway, particularly in England. In terms of Kahuna Burgers, I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Glutton you.
They knocked it out of the park for sure. So if you get the chance, check it out. It's called Squirrel. Nah, this is kind of a little off the general indie film topic, but I think we can weave it in.
It's very off topic.
I think we can weave it in.
Blackmailed you into it.
No. So, Bohemian Rhapsody, a film that was originally directed by indie film graduate Bryan Singer, of The Usual Suspects fame, and before that, Public Access, which was his first foray into indie filmmaking, which is really good. How are we going to put this politely? He was let go. He was let go 2 weeks before the end of filming, and British director Dexter Fletcher was brought in to sort of wrap everything up and see it through to the end.
Finish it up and that kind of thing.
So,
I mean, that was a big... If you want to know more about that, I'm sure you can look it up.
That's a different thing, but...
that's not really what we're here to discuss. Such a weird situation to get that far through filming and then be like,
He's clearly very proud of the film because he's promoting it on his Instagram, but he hasn't sort of been invited to be involved with the actual press tour.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't laugh, but I have noticed a lot of the pictures that he's put on his Instagram, scenes from the film and stuff. A lot of the comments are, "Well done, Dexter Fletcher."
Yeah, that's it is funny because the internet are full of people who are gits, to be polite.
So we'll never know. We'll never know how much Bryan Singer did and how much Dexter Fletcher did. So we'll have to put all that aside about who, terms of the
I know it was filmed
direction.
first.
Yes. What is Bohemian Rhapsody? It's not really a biopic of Freddie Mercury. It's not really a biopic of Queen. It's a stage of their career.
The film would like you to believe it is the majority of their career.
Okay, so we'll go with that. That's what the film is. A lot of people are saying it's a Freddie biopic, which it isn't. It isn't.
It is and it isn't.
It isn't, because it doesn't contain any of his life prior to him joining the band at age 24. So there's none of his young life, and there's none of his life beyond 85. When did it start?
Oof.
Early 70s?
Yeah, it would have been early 70s.
So it's a 15-year period anyway. So it's not really a biopic of Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. The film would like you to believe.
Yeah, the reality is it's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, the reason we're talking about this is we've tried to weave it in because of the indie film connections, but Paul...
I'm a Queen super fan.
Queen is your band.
Yeah, Queen are my band.
And I'm a big fan of Queen. I like the music, but I don't know their story inside out. I wouldn't be able to tell you the order of their releases of albums and singles and stuff, which I'm sure you probably could.
I could, but these days I'd have to think about it, but I could. There was a time I could have rattled off everything.
So I'd say you were fairly invested in the band Queen.
Oh yeah.
Whereas I'm a fan of the music.
Saw them last year.
You did, yeah? Well, no, let's be fair. You saw half of Queen.
Yeah.
You've seen two members of Queen pretending to be Queen. Anyway, let's jump in. Did you like it?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
I have to say, I loved every single second of it. And
that's perfectly fine.
I think the reason for that is...
You're the intended audience.
Exactly.
I am not.
I'm not anywhere near as invested as you are, and so I was able to enjoy the film.
I enjoyed it. I just think, to me, because it is a snapshot, it has to invent some things that didn't happen.
A lot of people have said that, have criticised the film for that. I don't think that's valid criticism.
Everybody
that has to happen. That has to happen.
Everybody. You have to create tension in some way. I just think the way they chose to do it was very strange. Let's talk about the beginning of the film first, because otherwise, the beginning of the film was the weakest part to me because it goes directly into Smile, which is fine, and then the next thing you know, they do Queen 1. You never actually see them release Queen 1.
No.
And the next thing they're doing is A Night at the Opera. I believe that's 3 or 4 albums later. My problem with that is the film doesn't feel like there is any struggle for the band to become great. Those first 2 albums, although I love them, did not do particularly well. I think it could have used that to say, yeah, they worked really hard. There are some great songs on those albums. 7 Seas of Rhye was on that first album.
You're right. It was kind of in the context of the film. It was kind of given to them, handed to them on a plate.
Yeah, and that really bothers me because it makes them seem like it makes them almost feel not manufactured, not like a lot of today's pop music. Almost like they looked into it.
Yeah.
The other part of it that I had problems with was the parts near the end where the band dissolve because Freddie goes off to do his 2 solo albums. Never happened. Brian May was already doing a solo album, and Roger Taylor was on his 2nd solo album. So there are ways you can still create conflict without doing that. I actually thought Rami Malek did really, really well. I really thought he did well. I've only actually seen him in like Night at the Museum 2. Pretty sure I saw an episode of Mr. Robot, thought this is amazing, and then was like, but it's depressing.
I remember him from a sitcom with Michael Rapaport called The War at Home. He played a sort of like I think he was the neighbour, very camp character. That's the first thing I saw him in. He was great in that. He's a great character actor. Yeah,
I was very impressed with him. Obviously, you had the whole Sacha Baron Cohen was supposed to do the role. And then that didn't happen. And people were like, but Sacha Baron Cohen's perfect for the role. And the more I think about it, the more it's like, yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen would have been great for like the debauchery bits and
I'm
making that ridiculous.
Sure. Like, because we've never seen him play a character based on a real person.
It's true.
He might have turned. I can only see it becoming a caricature, a very over the top comedy character.
The more but Rami Malek did amazing. And the other guys were great too.
I would say
I still maintain they found a time machine, went back, kidnapped Brian May.
Yeah. I would say 3/4 of the casting of Queen were amazing, spot on. I think the guy who was John Deacon, he nailed all the mannerisms of him perfectly. Yeah. From playing the bass just to his kind of smirking behaviour in the background.
Yeah, because like that's what Deacon was like.
But you're right, Brian May was just spot on. Great impression. I don't know what was happening with the casting of Roger Taylor though. That was a bit of vanity casting on Roger Taylor.
Yeah, the problem with because obviously like Brian May and Roger Taylor were involved, otherwise they wouldn't have got the rights to the music and therefore couldn't really make the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel to me like they had their edges sanded off.
Yeah.
Like
you say that, and a lot of people have said that, but there were an awful lot of jokes at Roger Taylor's expense in there.
There was a lot of him being a womanizer, but like you never see any of it. Freddie Mercury wasn't the only one having wild coke parties and stuff like that. Like this stuff happened, and you want to say, oh, Freddie's going off the rails. So why don't you show the rest of the band having fun and going a bit crazy, and then Freddie going even further? Because that pushes it from all right, it was the 80s to this is destructive.
Yeah.
Because it comes across like, well, we've got to get home to our wives. You know, we're upstanding moral members of society, and then you never see them again for 20 minutes. And that strikes me as May and Taylor being a bit, well, I don't want that getting out.
Even sort of, there's a bit of protection around Freddie as well, because not all of his stuff was laid out for everyone to see.
Yeah, of course, but at a certain point, it does come across like, I mean, that apology, which again can't have happened because they didn't break up. That grovelling, without you, I'm not very good, pretty much, is what he says. That smacks of, we're fed up of hearing how great Freddie Mercury was. Can you please talk about how great Queen are?
I can understand that.
I can understand it because
they are
wrong,
amazing musicians and they're great
all
songwriters.
Number ones. They're the only band to completely go into the Lyric Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
they're all amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I think the film to me felt like a greatest hits, which of course it was going to be, but
it was less than I thought. When we were watching the trailers.
Yeah, because are they going to talk about how they wrote this?
God, this is just going to be like every scene's going to be how they wrote, why they wrote a song, or how they wrote a song. I was like, oh, for God's sake! And then, that wasn't what the film was.
No, it wasn't. But my real tiny nitpick is "We'll Rock You."
Okay.
It's in the wrong time period.
Okay.
He should still be long-haired, leotard, Freddie Mercury, whereas he's pretty much Live Aid Freddie Mercury, like the look. So they've definitely moved it in the time frame.
Yeah, I mean these are things that don't bother me at all.
These things happen, but like "We'll Rock You" is not a small song at all. If you want to do that with like "I Want to Break Free" or something, no problem, because it's a great song, but it's not an anthem from around the world that was played in all of their concerts before. It's very frustrating. You could have put that before and had Brian have a bit more of a presence in the movie, other than those two. He has two scenes where he's like, I'm going to go home to my wife, and then he creates "We'll Rock You." It feels like a very good adaptation of their Wikipedia page. I'm going to nitpick a lot, because like you say, they are my band. But for a wider audience, they're going to love it. Yeah. I loved Straight Outta Compton because I'm not a huge NWA fan. I like them, but like somebody who's a massive fan would be like, that was wrong, and that was wrong. Well, at this point, I know what they got right, and that's the easy stuff for me to be like, obvious. Right? Now, it wasn't obvious because casting those people that look that way and act that way isn't easy. Filming that Live Aid scene isn't easy. It's a great film. It's just, for a super fan, it has those things where you're like, that could so easily have been avoided.
To me, it was a celebration of creativity. that you just don't get in music
Oh,
these
no.
days. It was just the way that they celebrated their performance skills, their songwriting ability. That's what made me happy, and that's what I really got out of the film, what I really enjoyed about it. I don't care that We Will Rock You is in the wrong place. The fact that they had that scene at all was great.
The fact
I mean, it might not even been constructed like that, but I love the fact that they are celebrating proper musicians writing original songs.
Yeah. It's just looking at it and going, oh, because the concert scenes they shoot, even for little concerts,
Yeah.
I know what concerts they were.
Mm-hmm.
I know that lighting rig they used, and it's like that detail is so perfect
Yeah.
that when you get a tiny thing wrong, it
Mhm.
stands out like a huge thing.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking about book adaptation of like the most recent one, Ready Player One. A lot of people were upset about the things they changed in that.
Oh, there are tons of things.
I love the book and I love the film. In fact, I probably
They're
love the
different
film more than the book. And they had to change stuff to make it work for the film, and it works. And I guess I don't have like a great frame of reference of the chronology of everything within Queen, but even if I did, I'm not sure how much it would bother me.
It's great. It's just not perfect, and because of me being the fan that I am.
Yeah, I guess it depends what you want out of it. I think for most people would dig
Oh,
it, and I think I've
Go
seen.
and see this movie. Like, I'm not. As long as. I'm just telling you, as a super nitpicker,
Mhm.
like, you're going to come across some weird Queen fan like me who's going to be like, well, that never happened, didn't it? And I hate people like that.
Yeah,
It annoys me that I'm being a person like that.
I
But
think.
as I say, it gets everything so right in the broad strokes that,
Yeah,
that the smaller stuff is the only stuff you can point at and go,
yeah. I don't know. I thought for a biopic, it did
Oh, yeah.
fantastically well. They're really good. The one that sticks out for me is Chaplin. I'm a big Chaplin fan,
never saw it.
and it's such a fucking mess because it can't decide what it wants to focus on. I know people talking about Bohemian Rhapsody not going far enough with the party stuff, but it decided to focus on a couple of things. It did them really well.
Yeah, you are right.
With Chaplin, it was a bit of this, it was a bit of that. Focus on his movies or focus on his private life. Keep a focus on something. It was just too much of everything. It was just a mess. Bohemian Rhapsody to me felt like
It
yes,
was laser
even
focused.
though they skirted over some things and might have toned down other things, they knew what aspects that they wanted to tell and they ran with them, and it was very succinct and well told.
Yeah,
from that point of view.
I'm never going to argue with that on that. They were like, we're going to tell this story. You know, people are like, oh, you know, he didn't tell the band he had AIDS until blah blah. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They need that because if you leave that out and say 3 years later he did this or two, people are going to be like, well, you didn't mention it. Like, there's going to be, say you didn't go into his private life enough. Well, guess what? You don't know that much about his private life because he was a very private person off stage.
That's almost a different movie in a way.
Yeah.
You could do a Freddie Mercury movie. Could do
Yeah.
a movie about Freddie Mercury and just have the fact that he was in Queen as a completely incidental fact within that movie.
Yeah. Oh, and the amalgamation of the EMI record boss. I was just like, oh god. Yeah, okay. All right. And I was gonna sit banging a car to quit. Yeah, all right. Fine, Mike Myers. Will you just piss off? It's a bit on the nose, like
that was the only time I was kind of like, ugh.
yeah.
That was a groan at that
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
And that happened. They didn't have a massive fight over.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But that recreation of Live Aid is ridiculous. You can sit there and you can watch that footage side by side,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nigh on exact, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. So I personally would highly recommend it.
I'd give it if we're going out of 5, I'd give it 4 Kahuna burgers.
Yeah.
Although I've moaned a lot, they're tiny things
Mhm.
that.
I think you'll get over them.
Yeah.
I think when you rewatch it, which you inevitably will, I think you'll dig it. Just let the little things go, and then
Yeah, exactly. And I will eventually. It's just like, oh, I wish this had happened.
Yeah, I think considering what biopics traditionally are and the mess that they normally are, I think that for that alone, whether there might be some inconsistencies in the timeline, just being such a solid, well-made, well-told story, 5 out of 5, no doubt about it.
And it's doing really well. So.
It's doing insanely well, yeah. 8.4 at the minute on IMDb, so it's 123rd highest rated film of all time. Box office is doing really well.
I went to see it the day it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pretty busy, and I thought, well,
How long's it been out now?
month.
Yeah, because it took me a while to have the time to go, and I saw the first screening in the morning, 11 o'clock screening, and I'd say that was probably a third full, which is
bad for 11 o'clock in the
for an
morning.
11 o'clock in the morning screening of a film that's been out for a month. That's pretty good. Well, Paul, thank you so much for jumping in,
Anytime.
being here, joining in. It's been a pleasure.
It certainly has. I'm not going to say for who, but it certainly has.
I've enjoyed having you here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for putting up with all my filmmaking endeavours that you've been involved in, and thanks for
Never a problem, always a pleasure.
letting me almost
And
kill
like
you.
I say, one day I might get aligned.
Again, if people want to contact you, Twitter.
PM Berrow on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
pmberrow5@gmail.com
Mm-hmm.
on email.
Okay. Well,
And
if
maybe I'll get you to speak something on my radio play.
you want me to be in your radio,
I may have to drag you in to do something. Maybe I should wrap your mouth up and speak into a microphone somewhere.
I think if you need people, I'll find people for you rather than.
Oh, right. So you'll do me that favour, but you won't let me wrap your mouth up in videotape maybe and see if you pass out.
Well, God, okay. Down.
Oh, I'm blood, damn it.
Maybe I should discourage you from.
Too late now.
Anyway, next podcast we'll be talking about the final stretch of filming at our location, and because Christmas is just around the corner, we'll also be talking about our favourite alternative and indie Christmas films to watch. If you want to get in touch with us, send us questions, recommendations for feature shorts or crowdfunding campaigns, you can get in touch with us via Twitter at Filmopolis, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. If you search IndieFilmopolis, you can find us there. Contact us through that. If you want to learn more about Own Worst Enemy, you can go to the website ownworstenemymovie.com. Twitter, we're Own Worst Enemy UK. Facebook, just search Own Worst Enemy Movie. If you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Philm_Maker, PHILM_MAKER. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to the podcast. We're available on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and Spotify. So until next time, thanks very much, and thanks again, Paul.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.